They didn't know it yet, but this dinner was not about food. It was about trapping one woman and proving something that was never true. The dining room was silent, not peaceful, but the kind of silence that listens. Every spoon, every breath, every blink. She sat there quietly, hands folded, eyes lowered. Not because she was weak, but because she could feel something coming. Across the table, her mother-in-law exchanged a quick look with the family lawyer. It lasted less than a second, but she saw it. When rich families plan something ugly, they always smile first. The conversation slowly changed. Not about weather, not about health, about property. "This house alone is worth more than most people's lives," the uncle laughed casually. Another voice added, "And the new land near the city? Priceless." She said nothing, but inside her chest her heart tightened. Because no one talks about money like this unless they want someone to react. Her husband finally looked at her, not lovingly, not angrily, confused. That was the moment she realized she wasn't just sitting at dinner, she was sitting inside a test. They never asked her a question, but they were already judging her answer. The lawyer cleared his throat. "Family matters sometimes need clarity," he said, opening his folder slightly, then closing it again. Why open it just to close it? Her fingers twitched. She noticed. Her husband shifted in his seat. Narrator: when silence becomes uncomfortable, it's usually because truth is nearby. Mother-in-law smiled. Not warm, not kind, calculated. "Some people," she said slowly, "enter families with intentions." No name mentioned, no accusation spoken, yet every eye turned toward her. She lifted her head for the first time and calmly said, "Intentions don't hide for long." The room froze. The lawyer's pen slipped from his hand. They expected fear, but what they saw was control. They thought pressure would expose her greed, but pressure was something she already survived. Mother-in-law leaned back. "We should be honest today," she said. "Families deserve honesty." Honesty. The word felt heavy. Her husband finally spoke. "Why are we doing this now?" No one answered him. The lawyer slowly pushed the documents forward. Not to her, just close enough. Narrator: greed doesn't need permission. It reaches on its own. But she didn't reach. She stared at the papers, then at the people, then quietly at the table. Seconds passed. 10, 20. Her silence became louder than any accusation. She finally spoke, softly. "If this is about trust, then someone here already failed." Everyone inhaled at once. She did something no one prepared for, and suddenly the trap felt unstable. She stood up, slow, graceful. No anger, no tears. She walked to the table, straightened the scattered documents, and slid them back toward the lawyer. "Not today," she said. That was all. No explanation, no defense. Mother-in-law frowned. "What does that mean?" she asked sharply. She looked at her, calm eyes, steady voice. "It means I'm still deciding who I'm really married to." Her husband's face drained of color. For the first time, the family felt something unexpected. Fear. They thought she refused the money, but that wasn't the dangerous part. The lawyer hesitated. "Should we reschedule?" he asked. She nodded once. "Yes." Simple, quiet, final.
Mother-in-law forced a laugh. "You're very confident." She replied, "Confidence comes when you know you can walk away with nothing and still be whole." No one spoke after that, because something invisible had shifted. They tried to expose her intentions without realizing she had just exposed theirs. As she left the room, the lawyer whispered, "Do we still have the recording?" Mother-in-law's face hardened, cut to silence. Dinner had ended, but the tension stayed like smoke. She walked into the living room, pretending to check her phone, but she could feel every pair of eyes on her. Mother-in-law appeared behind the couch. "You seem very calm for someone under inspection." She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she sat slowly, folding her hands. "I've learned that reacting too fast shows weakness." "Or maybe strength," the husband murmured, not meeting her eyes. From the kitchen, a cousin called. "Are you ready to see the new property papers?" Her lips curled into a faint smile, almost invisible. "I'll look when it matters." No one knew whether she was bluffing, calculating, or both. Late afternoon, she found herself alone with the family lawyer. "You seem nervous," she said. "Not nervous, cautious," he replied, avoiding eye contact. "Caution can be dangerous when you underestimate someone," she said softly. He handed her a folder. "This is only part of what they want you to see." She glanced at it, pretending interest. "I can't tell what's real and what's fake." "That's the point," he said, leaning closer. "They want to test you." She nodded subtly, smiling without revealing anything. "Then let's see who learns first."
At night, voices echoed from the corridor. "She's too calm," said the uncle. "If she was here for money, she would have reacted by now," said another. She passed by quietly, pretending not to hear. The husband looked confused. "Do you think she knows?" "Knows what?" his mother asked sharply. She paused near the stairs, glancing down. "More than you think." The air in the house suddenly felt tighter, heavier. The next morning, the lawyer brought a set of documents into the living room. "These are supposed to prove her intentions," he said, placing them on the table. Mother-in-law smiled confidently. "Finally, we'll see who she really is." She looked at the papers slowly, sliding them under her hands, reading lines without emotion. "Interesting," she said finally. "Is this all?" "It's supposed to be," the lawyer said. She folded them neatly and returned them exactly where they were. "Then perhaps the test isn't finished yet," she added, standing. Evening arrived, and the house was quiet. She walked past the sitting area where family members whispered. "She's acting like nothing's happening," the cousin said. "Maybe she is," the uncle replied. She stopped, looked at them briefly, then moved to the balcony. "I wonder who's really under pressure," she said to herself. The husband watched her from the door, uncertain whether to step forward or remain silent. "Everything seems normal, but nothing is," he muttered. She smiled faintly at the city lights, untouched, untouchable, already steps ahead in a game no one understood. The morning sunlight filtered through the blinds, casting long lines across the living room floor. She entered, her phone in hand, but her eyes scanned the room as if she could read secrets. "Did you sleep well?" her husband asked, trying to sound casual. She smiled faintly. "Sleep is for those who feel safe," she replied, not looking at him. Mother-in-law appeared in the doorway, arms crossed. "You seem unusually composed," she said, tilting her head. "Composure is the first layer of survival," she answered softly. The lawyer stepped in, placing another folder on the table. "This is the next step. It's about intent." She glanced at it, fingers tracing the edges. "Intent is a slippery thing, easy to misinterpret."
Her husband shifted uncomfortably, sensing tension but not understanding the depth. She finally spoke, slowly and deliberately. "If you truly wanted to test me, you'd have to think bigger than money." The family exchanged confused glances. "Bigger than money?" whispered the uncle. "Bigger than what?" the mother-in-law muttered. Her eyes held theirs, calm and unreadable. "That's something you'll have to figure out for yourselves." The documents remained untouched. She folded her hands and sat down, leaving an invisible weight in the room that everyone felt but could not name.
Later, she walked into the kitchen where the maid was quietly cleaning. "Everything seems calm, but it's never calm in this house," she said, almost to herself. Her husband entered, glancing nervously at the dining table where the folders had been left. "Do you really understand what's happening?" he asked quietly. She smiled slightly, not turning to him. "Understanding isn't the point. Observing is." She moved slowly toward the living room, passing the mother-in-law, who tried to hide a frown. "You're planning something, aren't you?" her mother-in-law asked, her voice too sharp. She paused, turned her head subtly. "Planning, perhaps, but not for the reason you think." The lawyer stepped closer, holding his tablet. "This digital record, it's supposed to show everything." She didn't take it. She simply watched him carefully, noting his hesitation. "Sometimes the record lies," she said softly, "and sometimes people believe it too quickly." The tension in the room thickened, each person unsure if they were ahead or already behind. That evening, the family gathered in the sitting room. "She hasn't touched the papers," the uncle whispered to his wife. "Maybe she's scared," the cousin suggested. Mother-in-law shook her head. "No, she knows exactly what she's doing." She appeared from the hallway, carrying a glass of water. She poured it carefully, set it down, then looked at each person in turn. "Do you believe in justice?" she asked casually. Everyone blinked. "Justice?" asked the mother-in-law. "Yes," she said, "not the kind written in documents or whispered behind closed doors. The kind that decides everything without speaking." Her husband tried to intervene. "Maybe she's overthinking." She turned toward him, eyes calm but piercing. "Overthinking is dangerous only if you mistake hesitation for weakness." The room went silent. No one knew how to respond, but each of them felt the subtle shift in power. Late at night, she sat on the balcony, looking out at the city lights. "They think they are testing me," she murmured, almost smiling. "But they're the ones being measured." Her husband stepped out, standing a few feet away. "Do you really mean that?" he asked, uncertain. She nodded slowly. "Every move they make, every plan they have is visible if you're patient enough." The mother-in-law's voice came from inside. "Why is she so untouchable?" She didn't answer. She just folded her hands, sitting straight, calm, unshakable. "The problem isn't the test," she said to herself. "The problem is when they forget who is truly watching." No one in the house knew she was already several steps ahead. The next morning, the family gathered around the dining table again. "Today we will see the truth," said the uncle, confidently placing the folders on the table. She entered the room slowly, smiled faintly, and said nothing. Her calm presence alone created tension. The husband watched her, unsure whether to trust her silence or fear it. Mother-in-law leaned forward. "You will prove your intentions today." She looked at her carefully. "Intentions can be proven only by actions, not words," she said. She picked up a cup of tea, sipping it slowly. "But sometimes the action you wait for isn't the one anyone expects." Everyone paused. The weight of her words lingered. She set the cup down without spilling a drop and walked past them, leaving a quiet but undeniable impression of control.
Early morning sunlight fell across the polished floor. She entered the living room slowly, almost as if she had all the time in the world. "You're early," her husband said, a hint of nervousness in his voice. She smiled faintly. "I like to see the day before it sees me." The mother-in-law appeared, frowning. "You're acting like nothing matters," she said. "Perhaps that's the point," she replied calmly. The lawyer brought the folders from yesterday again. "These are what you were supposed to review." She looked at them briefly, then slid them aside. "I prefer to understand people first, numbers second." The family exchanged uneasy glances. Each whispered to another, unsure whether they were leading the situation or being led. She glanced at her husband, who was frozen in indecision. "Sometimes patience is louder than accusation," she said softly. No one knew what she meant, but the tension was undeniable. Throughout the day, subtle glances and quiet murmurs circulated the house. She walked through the hallway slowly, noticing every gesture, every hesitation. "Why does she look so confident?" whispered the cousin. "It's unsettling," muttered the uncle. She entered the study where the lawyer was waiting. "They think I will falter under proof," she said calmly, "but proofs are only as strong as the hands that hold them." The lawyer nodded, intrigued. "You already know more than we do," he said. "I see what is visible," she replied, "but I don't reveal what is invisible." Her husband tried to speak, but she held up a hand gently. "Watch, listen, learn. That's enough for now." In the evening, a quiet dinner was prepared. The mother-in-law arranged the plates and smiled sharply. "Tonight, we will uncover the truth," she said. She sat, calm, folding her hands. "Truth is never uncovered by force," she said softly. As the conversation moved to property, shares, and money, she barely reacted. "Is she truly fearless?" whispered a relative. She tilted her head, smiling faintly. "Fear isn't always loud," she said. Her husband finally spoke. "Do you feel pressure?" She met his eyes directly. "The pressure is not mine to feel, it's theirs to bear." Everyone at the table stiffened. Something subtle had shifted. Late night, she walked through the hall quietly, noticing the mother-in-law peering from the doorway. "What are you planning?" the mother-in-law asked, trying to sound casual. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she simply smiled faintly. "Plans can be misleading. Intentions cannot," she said. The husband approached, nervous. "Should we reveal the documents now?" he asked quietly. She shook her head. "Not yet. Let them believe what they want. The moment of truth has its own timing." The lawyer stepped aside, unsure whether to intervene. "I don't understand her," he whispered. She passed them all, confident, untouchable, already moving several steps ahead in a game no one realized she was leading. The next morning, the house was tense. Mother-in-law paced, whispering to the uncle, "She's not reacting. She's too calm." The uncle frowned. "It feels wrong. I've never seen anyone handle this like her." She entered the room holding a small cup of tea. "Calmness is not surrender," she said softly. "It's observation and understanding the rules others break without noticing." Her husband watched her, finally realizing her silence was not fear. "She is in control," he muttered. The lawyer cleared his throat, presenting the documents again. "You can review this now," he said cautiously. She glanced briefly, then placed them back. "Some things are not meant to be taken, only understood," she said. The tension in the room became unbearable. The family could feel the shift, but could not grasp it. Evening fell, and the family gathered once more in the living room. Mother-in-law spoke sharply. "You will tell us why you married into this family." She looked at her calmly. "I did not marry for what I could take. I married for what I could give." Silence. No one had expected such words. Her husband finally spoke. I never realized. She smiled faintly, walking to the table and gently pushing the folders aside. You were all testing me, when the real test was whether you could see the truth in front of you. The lawyer's jaw tightened. The family exchanged stunned looks. I will not take what is not mine. I will not prove what is already clear, and I will not respond to what is baseless. The mother-in-law's face drained of color. For the first time, she realized the trap had backfired.
Night fell. The city lights reflected across the balcony. She stood there, calm and untouchable. Her husband approached, voice low. You could have taken everything." She smiled faintly. "And lost myself? No. Some victories are not measured in wealth." The mother-in-law entered quietly. How did you remain so strong?" She looked at her once, eyes steady. "Strength isn't loud. It's quiet, deliberate, and untouchable." Then she turned toward her husband, taking his hand gently. "The family may never understand, but I do." The family lawyer gathered his things quietly, realizing they had all miscalculated. The camera of imagination would linger on her face, calm, confident, undefeated, leaving the family, the audience, and the city lights in awe. No one expected the ending. The truth had been hers all along.